Alright guys, this is Scout Report episode 6, which is crazy. And I've actually got a really cool guest on the actual podcast, which is funny. We've got StillAliveGG. I would say kind of inspirational for me, because even though he's not a massive content creator, he's kind of doing the thing that I wanted to do, which is he's able to play multiple games, which we're going to let him introduce himself in a moment to. But we're going to go down a nice journey together. We're going to have hopefully a bit of fun on this podcast, and yeah, we hopefully have a good time. So, Still Alive, welcome to Scout Report, my dude.
Thank you for having me. It is great to be here.
Yeah, man. So, a lot of people might not know who you are in my community, because I am kind of known for only like Call of Dragons and slowly creeping into another game you'll know, which is Era of Conquest, which is funny. But for the guys in chat and the guys that are watching it on the podcast later on the upload, tell them a little bit about yourself.
Where to begin? I've been making videos on YouTube for about 5 years, going on almost 6 years now. Started off mostly mobile games. Occasionally I did some PC games, but usually mobile games. I just had my birthday last Saturday. I turned 34 years old.
Happy birthday, dude.
Yep. I have one daughter. She's 10. I was married. I got married when I was like 23, and now I'm divorced. I've been divorced for like 4 years, so I've been through everything. Was married, divorced, have a kid, and here I am still chasing the dream. And I'm telling you, like, anyone could do it. Trust me. I always like to say that I'm like living proof that like anyone can do YouTube, because when I first started doing YouTube, I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't even know how to like edit videos. A lot of my like first videos, they weren't edited. They were just like 20 minutes long, and it was just so awkward. So I've been through quite a lot. I've learned a lot, and it's pretty much just being consistent is what you can be successful if you're just consistent.
Yeah, definitely, because that's one thing like I want to honestly agree with. I think if you really truly wanted to be a content creator and you set your mind to it, I think anyone can do it, because I'm in the same boat as you. Like, I started only last year and I had nothing. I don't know how to edit videos. I don't know how to really talk, communicate, make things entertaining, like what is a good topic for a video, and just stuff like that in just general. Like, you have no groundwork from, but I think like you and me will agree on is the only way you can do that is just by pumping out videos, and you learn.
Yeah.
You just learn over time, dude, right? So
Yep, exactly.
So what are some of the mobile games you've been playing? Because I know obviously you've done like Call of Dragons, you've done Era of Conquest, but I know you've played all types. So maybe like what have been maybe more of your favorite, mobile games to cover in playing?
Yeah, I've covered every time a new game comes out. I play it. I make a video on it. I'm all over the place. Some of my favorites, it's a bit tough. There's been a lot of like really good games that I enjoyed, but then sometimes mobile games are weird because a lot of the times they're very fun when they first come out or when you first play them. But the problem is a lot of these companies, they don't have the ability to really keep their game interesting after like a couple months. So after like 2-3 months is when usually you see the player base die in like pretty much any mobile game, because it just gets to the point where when you first start, there's so much for you to do, and then it gets to the point where it's like, okay, now it's just like log in every day, do your dailies, and then that's it. And then you're just kind of waiting for an update. I would say that the one that has been pretty good so far, and they've just released like their global launch, was it a couple months ago, would probably be Dragonair Silent Gods. That one's pretty fun, mostly because it has that whole RPG hero collecting mechanic where you're trying to collect heroes and you have that role-playing game, you're leveling up your heroes, putting on gear and stuff. But it has that Dungeons and Dragons feel to it, so it really eliminates a lot of the constant grinding that you face with those RPG hero collecting games like Raid Shadow Legends or any of those where you're pretty much just going and you're doing a dungeon run over and over and over again, and it just is like, all right, there's no real substance to the game. Whereas like Dragonair has kind of cracked that code, and it's more of an open world adventure, and you're going on different quests and stuff. So it's a bit more like fun. It has a really good storyline to it, with also the grinding. So you get like, I would say it's balanced well, so it doesn't feel like a constant grind fest, but the grind is there. But it kind of mixes in everything. But I'd say that's been pretty fun for like the RPG games if you're looking for one of those. As far as like the base building war games, I would say Era of Conquest has definitely been by far the best one that's stuck out to me out of all the ones out there. And I played that way back. So like a year ago when they did their closed beta, I actually got into the very first server, and it was called the Early Bird server. So I had tons of experience playing that. It was extremely limited though. There was only a certain amount of people that could get in, and they only opened up that one server, and then I think maybe a month or two later they opened up a second. So when the game first started in that closed beta, there was only 2 servers, and the problem with that was it almost felt like it was more just like them testing the game and stuff like that, which I understand most people, like companies, do that. But that part got boring quick, because after like playing it for a month, there really wasn't like any battles going on. There wasn't a lot of people in the server because it was so limited. I would say that now with global launch, there's a lot more servers for Era of Conquest, and there's a lot more events going on. There's a lot more dedication, whereas when I first played it a year ago, it just kind of felt like they were just testing the game out to see if people liked it, or to find any bugs or anything like that. But I would say those two for RPG games, for a base building war game, those have been like my 2 main favorites so far for like 2023.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not gonna lie, I've fallen in love with Era of Conquest as well. It's surprisingly so good. Because some people will look at it, and I get it all the time in my comments section, where they look at it and they just go, why is this Rise of Kingdoms? This is just a Rise of Kingdoms clones. And it's one of the most hated comments, I think, to see in my own community. Because it's like, come on, dude. Just because it's a history-based game does not mean it's the same game. And like, the way the combat system actually works is so different compared to Rise of Kingdoms. Like, even just the alliance and the way the sand table of like expanding your alliance and getting these like military ranks which you can provide players with to get like weekly rewards and stuff like that is like such a different dynamic on the game. Because it's not like, okay, we've built you a game you can play, which is like, Rise of Kingdoms. This is more like, we've built a game, but you as a community need to embrace it. And like the community aspect, I think, of that game is what makes, I think, Era of Conquest a one step, I think, above actually the current competition. Like, because of how dynamic the social interactions are, and how just even easy it is for like an alliance to merge with another alliance. Like, I've never seen a merge alliance feature just so easy in my entire life, especially like because I'm currently leading an alliance in Server 9, so it's a bit stressful at times. Like, it is a bit crazy, but I do love it. So what would you say though, because obviously both enjoy Era of Conquest. If I wouldn't say what would you do in terms of like take from it for Call of Dragons, but in an essence of Call of Dragons, what do you reckon it's lacking because, you know, compared to like Era of Conquest is?
I would say the biggest thing that like makes Era of Conquest fun for me is like I don't know, I would say maybe two main things, maybe three main things. It's kind of hard to, you know. But first one would definitely be the resources. So you can't buy resources at all in Era of Conquest. You can't spend money for resources. And the resource management in Era of Conquest is so much more strategic than like any other game, because all of your stuff is very limited. You only have a certain amount of medals that you can go ahead and get per day to go ahead and attack those resource camps. And just stuff like that is so important because it makes it more... you have to be more careful about how you go ahead and spend your resources, instead of just being like, oh, let me spend $100. I need some more wood. I need some more food. You know what I mean? Stuff like that is just like... So it kind of eliminates the whole pay-to-win aspect from that part. The other thing is the... like you said, the sandbox thing where we can go ahead and capture different territories. Now, typically the games have you like putting down flagpoles to capture territories in that aspect, but Era of Conquest has that huge, big map where it feels more exciting. It feels like there's just so much going on. There's a lot of traveling to go along. That would probably be the only thing that I don't like, is that the maps are so big for the sandbox when we're going from hexagon to hexagon. And if your main town is like far away from like a main city that you're trying to capture, I mean, it can be like a 10-minute march, a 15-minute march to get to a war. That would be like the only thing that's like a downside. But I love the huge map, and the fact that you can have hundreds of people in your guild, I think is, you know, I mean, like when I first started, there was like 300-400 people in the guild, and it just helps out so much because it makes it feel competitive, but also at the same time, it gives you that casual aspect because there is so many people in your guild that there isn't a huge what is the word I'm looking for? There's not like a huge
burden.
Like a priority of you having to be there on every war, because there's so many people in your guild. So it's like, who's ever on, hey, participate in this war, participate in this event. It's not like where if there's only like 70 people in the guild, you need everyone on whenever there's something going down. But when you have like 300 people in the guild, I mean, casually, if you're on, hey, I'll participate. And then overnight, something could happen. And there's tons of people who play during the day, overnight. So it just gives you that constant aspect of, no matter what time you want to play, with having so many people in your guild, you're always able to jump in the game and talk with other people, socialize, make friends, compete in different events, all different hours of the day and night. So there's a lot of cool stuff like that I really enjoy. And then the skill cards for the heroes, I think, are really fun. So traditionally with a lot of those other games, the heroes kind of just have those static talents or skills, I guess, skills. So as you go ahead and you upgrade their star count, then you get access to like their next skill. Whereas with Era of Conquest, you actually have to get skill cards, which, I mean, it's a gotcha system for the skill cards. It's not horrible. I think it's pretty like reasonable. I've gotten a lot of the top tier skill cards for free, not even spending any money. But the fact that you can customize the heroes' skills and you can do different builds is what really sets it apart from something like Call of Dragons, where the customization for your team is really just pairing a lieutenant with a deputy, and then that's pretty much it. Their skills are static. You know what they're going to do. Whereas in Era of Conquest, you could be going up against somebody who has the same heroes as you, but they might have different skill cards on them. So it could be completely different type of battle, which is so huge. I mean, you have complete customization over your build.
Yeah, no, definitely. I do agree. I think with honestly all those points. The one thing which I slowly am now starting to realize, because I'm only around, I think, day 18, so technically I'm still like a young boy in Era of Conquest. Like, you know, I'm only technically still a newbie within the time frame of how long the game has technically been out. So our alliance was, you know, originally, it's crazy how it was like over 1,000 members, and then through some weird patches they've dropped it down. We're only around like 115 members now, but it's the fact that, like you said, the way the map is, and how we was talking about how the sandbox tile method of these hexagons allow you to basically, like, it's like you could sleep, or maybe you might work one day, maybe you had to take a day off, because the resource system is like you're getting 3 tokens a day anyway, so you're just going to regain your lost progress within 2 days anyway if you've missed out a day, which is amazing. But you could come back and, like, your boys, you know, like you say, you have 300-400 boys all working day and night at certain times. You'll come back and that whole map will just evolve. It, like, just moves, and it's like its own. You can see, like, the work and effort the Alliance is putting in, and where you guys are going towards, and like how, you know, yeah. And this is the one issue I have with it, which is, like you said, I kind of need to teleport a lot just because, like, I need to go from this building to that building, because now I need to get closer because of the travel distance. Like, and don't get me wrong, some people be like, you know, that sounds horrible, but there is certain mechanics to try and negate it. It's not like it's the best mechanics, like the building the little fortresses that grants you the tile upgrade, so you get that little fast travel. So that it's cool that they've added, and they've thought of these ways you can basically, you know, increase your alliance capabilities. And I like the fact that you said the skills, man. The skills is the biggest thing I love about that game. The fact that I can just straight out customize these, and it's like originally my burn build was just like pure burn, and now it's kind of this really cool mix up of like control with like just negating and nullifying effects. So I know my combo should in theory always try and go off. Like, obviously in some cases it's gonna still get stuck by control, but I love the fact that I can still change and tailor these skills on the fly. While I'm not gonna lie, we're going into Season 2 Plus on Call of Dragons, and obviously they're making, as they say, Season 3 in the latest kind of like Q&A in the meet and greet they did in Cologne. But we still don't have a skill lock system, or we don't have any sort of way for a player to even, like, you know, actually determine, you know, if I'm investing into this hero, I want this third or I want this fourth skill actually getting upgraded. I don't want to waste this investment in this very long-term gacha system again on my heroes, when I'm going to have to do this in the artifact system, as well as in, like, I don't know if you've been playing recently, like the war pet system as well. Like, these are the new systems where they could, in essence, to be fair, like, be really fun, grindy-based activities, but instead they're all locked behind some sort of, you know, slot machine gacha upgrade system where each step just gets even harder than the last step, right? So I hope, obviously, this next year, I think the next year for Call of Dragons is going to be the interesting year, because I think it is almost following the same suit as what Rise of Kingdoms did, where Rise of Kingdoms was Rise of Civilization, wasn't great at the start. It took about a year or two for development of, like, KVK, the Ark of Osiris, more events and heroes. So it had time to figure out what it wanted to do, and then it gained its popularity. So I'm not saying Call of Dragons can do the same, right? But that is the assumption by many, though, right? On basically the successor of Rise of Kingdoms. So what's your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I would say the biggest thing that I can give, like the biggest advice I can give to pretty much anyone, is to not get so caught up with one game, especially for the people who say like Era of Conquest is like a copy of something else when like they haven't even actually played it. So like the number one thing I would say is try different games, and that's for like as a player and as a content creator, because what I learned early on is like when I first started YouTube, I only played one game and my channel like didn't really do very well. I covered the same game for like a year, and it just really didn't work out for me. So finding, being open-minded is so important, and not only gaming but life in general. Just being open-minded and being able to try different things, because if you don't try something new, then you're not going to. You could discover something that you absolutely love. You could discover the next huge big game. So I would say that it's always open to trying different games and trying different ideas and seeing what works and what doesn't. But I don't know. I don't really. Call of Dragons for me wasn't really a lot of fun.
Okay.
I didn't really enjoy it. The War Pets were like kind of cool, but it just didn't feel like it. I don't know. It just didn't feel like it brought anything exciting to the game.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Because this is the one thing I think a lot of people might all like to say, and I kind of agree on it. And it's a cool phrase where it seems like Call of Dragons is in that identity crisis where it clearly, obviously, it is. We know it's running on the same game engine as Rise of Kingdoms, but the dev teams aren't taking any sort of risks to actually separate it from everyone else, right? There's nothing new, there's nothing realistically that's what's eye-catching, and the only thing that I say that I think is the best part so far of the game was actually the raiding part, because the raiding part was, kind of the more different aspect of any of the other games. It got community, got your alliance members all together, and it was almost playing like a mini World of Warcraft raid. Yeah, it's not as complicated as World of Warcraft, right? But it's the fact that it's the ambition of it, and I think that's what I thought was a really cool aspect that they could have been leaning more into, and maybe tried more stuff like that, where it's just like you are introducing this new, just different approach to the game, because obviously at the moment everyone looks at it and it is feeling like you're just playing Rise of Kingdoms but with ranged combat, with a new grind set, which is the war pets and the artifact system, right? So yeah, it's sad. I would say it's sad. I was going to ask, like, do you like Call of Dragons? But you said no, so I don't have to go and follow up on that question. It's really funny on it about that. So if you could, let's just say then, if we were going to, say we were part of the dev team, we had full control. Just say you could just add one thing. Say you could just change maybe like either one mechanic, or say you wanted to just bring something you've seen maybe in another game, but you change it a little bit to make it a bit more of a Call of Dragons vibe. What would you suggest?
I would say the number one thing would be the skills. Just being able to customize your skills for all the different heroes, because it gets to a point where it's just kind of like the only way for us to get new skills is to get a new hero. So at that point, it's just them pumping out new heroes and then throwing them in the hardest possible ways for us to get them, such as the wheel, spin the wheel, or what that pay to win event is called. What is it specifically called? I forget what it's called.
The strongest lord.
Strongest, that, or throwing it in as like, top players get that. Stuff like that is just kind of like, that's like 100% pay to win. Like that's like spend money to get this. And I just like think that's, I don't know, I don't really like that. I think I would be more happy with the way like how Era of Conquest did it, and I'd rather just make a whole bunch of different skills, throw it in a gacha system, and give us the option to put these skills on whatever hero we want, but all heroes have one main specific skill. So for like Call of Dragons, it would be like all the heroes, they all have their one main rage skill. That doesn't change. But all those, like those other 3 or 4 skills on them, their passive skills and stuff, you can change those by going ahead and getting different skill cards, or maybe if you don't want to call them skill cards, skill powers or whatever. But just a variety of ways to customize the heroes. That's the biggest thing, because it just adds so much variability to the battles and to players individually. It makes you stand out and be different from, oh, I have a Guinevere, I have this guy, I have this guy. You know, they all have the same heroes, and it's just like, all right, it's a Lilia versus a Lilia. Who's gonna win? Well, whoever spent more money. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, come on, man. It's stupid. At least having the fact that it's like, oh, well, my hero has this specific skill, and then, well, my opponent's has a different skill. So this will be an interesting battle to see how there's interaction between these. So that's what I would say is like the huge, like the biggest thing that would really help the game.
Yeah, I could see something like that, though. That's the thing, because it's not like they couldn't, right? Because you could just, even if they made it simple, where, like you said, it was just like, and instead of you had your main slot and you had these other 3 slots, all you do is click on it and say, you know, they've got the infantry talent, the PvP talent, and the mobility talent. Well, just make skills tied to those 3 talents. So then, you know, you're picking the PvP skills, and then there might be a table of like 5 to 6 skills, maybe just because you're an infantry player, you know, that you're limited to. And then maybe if you're a range player, like an archer or a mage, there might be a different, you know, 6 skills to pick from if you've got access to that PvP tree, right? So then, like you said, you know, maybe I don't need to worry about having this hero with a rally-based, stronghold-based skill that's just literally useless for like myself, or like a free-to-play player, or it's just like not worth it as an investment. So I do like that in there. I like to obviously see, just for myself, like just ways to make the game, because I don't know, I have the philosophy of, if a good game has activities that just makes you want to play them, you have more chance generally, if you really wanted to say it, like a player investing money, because it's like, well, if they're willing to spend the amount of time, they enjoy the game because of that one aspect. So they might be like, you know what, I might just throw $10. I like the game, it helps, right? Some people just do that, and it's fine, right? And one area I thought they could do that was the war pets, because, like you said, it's not really that fun. It's just kind of like you are capturing these cool little critters, but they're just stats at the end of the day. They're not really doing too much to you. And the fact that they're limited, right? You only get 5 a day. That's the biggest crutch of any of them. And the fact that they're already said in this Cologne meet and greet that there's going to be more war pets even on the way, like 5 to 6 potentially more. So it's just like, if they're bringing more and more war pets in, you need to give players their access to capture them. Like, you just need to give players access. So I was hoping their improvement was more on maybe just changing the system, where maybe you capture something like 50 war pets in a single day, like maybe as a cap, and it just allows players to spend an hour, 2-3 hours, if they really wanted to capture 50 war pets. And instead, though, it would change like the skill system to kind of what we wanted, as well as a little bit of a little shift as well, which would be like, people want to, you know, place those skills in them slots, which we should be able to do as well. I agree on that. Like, it shouldn't be a random slot machine where to put these skill slots in my war pet. Like, what the hell? Like,
that is the worst.
Yeah.
That is literally the worst idea I've ever seen, is the fact that it's complete RNG and you don't even know the percentage. You don't even know what the percentage is of if it replacing an old skill or being added as a new skill.
Yeah, so I suggested it was more like, you know, you could select the skill, pick the skill slot that you save. Even if you was something like, when you were gonna learn that pet, you could click on, say, like your first skill slot. Say like you have 5, and number 1 and 3 had the skill that you actually needed. So you could just pick 1 and 3 and lock them safe, and when you go to learn, it might cost you maybe an extra 100 coins or something. Just something simple, just because you have locked in, you know, some guarantee. Because then at least it means you have to grind more pets in order to keep, you know, securing the pet. But I was hoping for as well was the skills. Instead of like these skills being just total, again, kind of like RNG when you're releasing pets, I think you should always be guaranteed a skill, whatever you see in the skill slots. And what I would do is change it from a system where you are rolling basically a gamble dice to hope that that war pet you've captured has a 1, 2, 3 star talent, into more of a system where you can get the 0 star one, and then if you get 5 0 stars, you just upgrade. So you just go into a 1 star one then. So you've done the amount of time, you've put the amount of effort and grinding in order to get that 1 star talent. And maybe you do the same thing. After 5 1 stars you get a 2 star, then after 5 2 stars you've maxed out, you've got the 3 star talent. But at least each step of the way is an over time, obviously a longer grind. So the players that are willing to put in the grind should have better war pets then, right? and the fact that you can select those skill slots, and then with that system and allowing you to actually, you know, these war pets and experience the system, I think would be a really good improvement and a way to actually separate Call of Dragons again, because it makes it like, you know what, you can play Call of Dragons, you can have good open PvP, which I think is probably one of the better things as well, though. If you like, you know, Rise of Kingdoms, you know, that style of combat, I would say this does have better combat than that game. But if you want raiding, you can come to here, you can play raids, and then you've got this new war pet system that's basically like Pokemon 2.0, but within the palm of your hand. You know what I'm saying? Like, it'd be really fun if they could do something like that, and then start leaning into that community aspect that, as we've said, like, Era of Conquest has clearly understood and got that formula correct on how to make the game very community social based, right? So I was gonna say at the end there, have you got anything you want to say about basically like Call of Dragons as a whole, or are you happy with what we've said about Call of Dragons so far?
Yeah, I just like, I don't know, I'm not a huge fan of it. That's simple.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know, I'm just like, I don't know. I don't like, for me, like, a lot of the times if like these base building war games, they're very similar, but then they have like different skins, and I know like the skins usually appeal to a lot of people and what like bring them in, but for me specifically, I'm not like drawn into the Call of Dragons like theme or skins, the bright colors and everything. I don't know. I like more of, like, there's certain ones that I really liked that have, I guess, like the bigger franchise skins, like the Final Fantasy 15 base building war game, or like the one that was like a sci-fi futuristic kind of like skin to it. Anything that has there was like a Walking Dead one that was like a base building war game with the Walking Dead, which I thought was pretty cool. So like there's certain things like that I enjoy. So I think that's one that's also like important with these like war games, is having a very attractive skin that's going to bring in a certain type of player base. And just for me in particularly, like, I don't know, I look at Call of Dragons and I don't really see a like franchisey skin or anything that really like appeals to me. It just feels like it's just a bunch of bright colors and cartoonish characters that kind of are somewhat similar to how Rise of Kingdoms characters looked.
Yeah, no, I get that. I think it's weird because I think the whole community is kind of on that same fence where they either just hate the characters, like they just don't like the design of the characters, or we just look at them, and I'm kind of in that same boat where you look at them and you're like, yeah, like they're alright, And the problem is, it's not like you're saying they're all right because of how they look, because the thing is, you could imagine that exact same model, but as you said, but like in more like a Final Fantasy model where it's a bit more realistic, or like even like a World of Warcraft or Raid Shadow Legends. You could imagine that exact same model in that format, and it would just pull off what it wants to pull off so much better. Because I think it is true, when you're playing this game, it's weird because it's a very, as everyone should know, it's a very like adult game, right? It is like an adult based game, but it's weird that the art style or art direction currently of the game is more like a Disney based game, right? So it's kind of more like child friendly.
Yes, it feels like it's more like bright colors, and like it feels like it appeals more to, I don't want to say kids, but probably it'd be like Fortnite teenagers players. Like 19 years old, 20 years old, like early adulthood. Not people who are like my age who are getting ready for death. Yeah, just not these old people. I don't know. It just feels like it definitely appeals to the younger kids who like all that bright color cartoony stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, because it's one of them where I don't think the fantasy part of it is the issue, which I think people get misconstrued as like an argument. Like, I don't think the fantasy style is the problem. It's just the way it's been executed. Because like if let's be real, if fantasy wasn't cool, why is Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings just like one of the best like fantasy based kind of series out there? But the way they're done, even in the game, like even though I must admit, I think the Lord of the Rings game currently is kind of in dire. I think they did a really bad patch, I think, recently. But like, even when you play the Lord of the Rings mobile games, like the models are very mature, the look mature, right? And then you can, like, I'm guessing like with Dragonair, because I've seen some clips again, like it's very mature based looking, like very realistic looking models that are like Raid Shadow Legends, or there's that other new, I think it's like tower defense game. Is it like Watcher of the Realms? Is it?
Yeah, I played that. Yeah.
It's like those games have that more mature feel to them, where I think a lot of the playbase maybe in Call of Dragons kind of wish this game had. Like, I think if they had that is the way they might sell it even better, where they go, do you know what, we've got the same Rise of Kingdoms game engine, but here's like an 18 plus rated model. I'm just saying, like, so I wonder how they're gonna go in the next year for that. Is there any guys, I know we're getting towards the end of the podcast here, is there any guys so far that have been watching it? I know there's quite a few of you in the chat that want to ask any questions towards one of us. Maybe we can just discuss it towards the end of the podcast. Otherwise, we will be doing our nice outros where we can final things up. I'll let you guys have a couple of minutes in order to do that. Let's talk a little bit about then, just before we get into that Q&A, about Era of Conquest, because to be honest, I've been playing it a lot more, you've been playing it a lot more. What would be just some Era of Conquest tips? I would just say just some general tips you'd give people when playing it, because the one thing I noticed when I was playing that game were it does a good job of slowly giving you mechanic by mechanic. So you might watch a guide, for example, and you're like, why can't I do this? But it's just because you haven't obviously unlocked that feature yet. But what are just some tips of, just things you've learned, like maybe like just leveling up heroes and stuff like that? Because I know there's like some sneaky tricks with like the training ground, like subbing out commanders and stuff to get them leveled up in there. Like, just let's talk about a little bit of Era of Conquest before we, end up.
Yeah, I would say the most important thing is to like rush your civic center as high as possible. Basically, unlocking that training grounds is the most important thing, because that allows you to level up your heroes so much faster than just sending them out there one by one and attacking the rebels. That's like the worst grind, and unfortunately, it's like something you have to do at the beginning, just to get your heroes leveled up, so that way you can at least start attacking like the resource camps and other things and like cities and stuff. But yeah, getting your civic center to what is it, 18 or something? I forget what level it is where you unlock the training camp or the training grounds. That's like my number one tip. I always tell everybody is you need to unlock that, because then you can level up all of your other heroes. Because at the beginning, you kind of get to the point where you really only have access to do one march. So it doesn't really matter about how you start leveling up a bunch of different characters, because you really don't have a lot. And usually I say focus your first main build is like a burn build, because the burn build is like by far the best for just PvE content, because it does the most damage. And that's usually what you're doing a lot at the beginning, is trying to unlock all of that fog that is around your base, and unlocking all of those different additional like camps, and doing your I forget what it's called, that the little like book quests, and then getting those artifacts, and then it lets you get the medals for Mary and El Cid.
Yeah, your tapestry book.
Yeah, so that's like the number one thing, is you need to go through and do that and build your burn build. Should be your first build. And then from there, then once you go ahead and you start unlocking a second march and then a third march, is when you can really start to work on building your more PvP builds. So stuff like your control builds, stuff like an assault build. And it's mostly just because the burn build is so easily accessible at the beginning. It's very free to play. There's like two versions of the burn build. There's like the free to play version, and then there's like the version where you kind of have Leonidas and you can spend a bunch of money to get his medals and really power him up. But either way, it doesn't really matter, because you're really just going through a lot of PvE content at the beginning when you first start off. So that's like your main priority. And then once you get, I don't know, I would say probably, around where you are, after like, it really just depends, but after probably, it also depends on how much you play. Because one thing that's kind of different about this game is you can spend a lot of time playing this game. It's not something that you kind of log in and you do your dailies and then you're done. Like, there's a lot of stuff that you can do. I mean, you can spend like 6 hours playing this game, and you're constantly doing things, different things at that, not like the same thing over and over again. So there's just a lot of content to do and discover and play. So really, I've seen people who have spent money and didn't really play a lot, and they didn't get very far. And then I've seen people who really didn't spend any money, who are free to play, but they played the game a lot, and they actually advanced further. So the game is definitely one that I would say encourages playing more as opposed to spending, and that goes kind of hand in hand with the thing that you said earlier, is having people spend more time in the game encourages them to, or gives them the opportunity to spend money if they're on the game a lot. So it has that weird aspect where if you do spend money in Era of Conquest, you don't get like a huge power increase like you do in certain other games, where like if you spend like $100 in one of these other war games, you get so much power and you're like so much stronger than everyone, whereas you do the same thing in Era of Conquest, it doesn't have that same effect, because you still have to continue to play, because there's so many things that are like gated behind. You need to reach this area or reach that area or reach this level, certain things like that. So gameplay is really encouraged overall to kind of be a lot stronger than others, instead of just smacking down $100 and instantly getting a ton of power. So I like that about that. And I would say, like, you have to be prepared. If you want to be competitive, this is one that you don't really have to spend a bunch of money to be competitive, but you do got to spend a lot of time. But you can play it casually too. You don't have to spend a lot of time, because like I said, there's your guild members, there's like 200-300 people in a guild. I mean, there's a lot of people in a guild at the beginning. And because of that, it really eases off of that pressure that you feel to try and help the guild capture territories and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I do agree with that because it is like it's wild. Even if you're gonna play it casually, like I say, I like the fact that you could be a hardcore gamer on it and you could only do every single day, no matter what, free resource tiles, free relics. So you're like, okay, right. So if I'm more of a casual player, I kind of like do those free things, and then maybe I quickly do like my arena and maybe a couple of other tasks, and that's kind of like me done. But like as you know, as you said, if you're more of a hardcore gamer, it's like, okay, now I can start like going into the trading barracks, start trading my troops. I can now go into maybe enemy territory and start like looting the carts and getting free medals.
That's so much fun.
And
yeah,
it's so fun because it's like it's one of them things where you start looting carts and you start hoarding all these coins, and it's like you get an adrenaline rush because it's like if I don't get these guys back, I'm kind of like upset, right? Because I want the full amount. I don't want to take a percentage loss on it. So it's really fun that you get these little mini games involved, and then on top of it, like you said, there is tons of events where it's like you can go to the Wonder event and like it will just randomly split teams, where like for us anyway at the moment, it just like randomly splits teams amongst like even my alliance members and all the top powers. So it tries to be, well, it tries to be as even as it can at times. Sometimes it's a bit of a question mark, but we understand it's a work in progress on that. But like you say, and then there's like the Black Crow raid where you can just start like trying to basically optimize how fast you can kill PvE content like a machine, like a bot, which is I find funny as well. Like they kind of gimmick almost all these different events to different style of players, which I think is a really cool thing, man. But we don't have any great questions, which is I think good because it means hopefully we've given them everything they wanted in terms of Era of Conquest and Call of Dragons information on today's scout report. So thank you for turning up, dude. Would you be the amazing guest and tell everyone where they can find you at, you know, all your socials and plugins? Don't worry, we will put all of that stuff in the description and title like always, but just quick little final shout out to yourself.
I'm probably the only YouTuber like at my level who just doesn't have any social media. The only thing I have is my YouTube channel.
That's so wild. So so if you guys want to support him, you know, just basically when this comes out, as well as it should be, I think, in the live stream title, hopefully, is his channel. So you'll be able to just click on that, check him out, hit the sub button, just check out his videos, because like I say, he is the polar opposite to me. You know, I am almost like a specialist. I only grind one game and make content for one game, while like he said, he does everything. You know, he plays and tries so much out there, and he gives you guys, like I do, like an honest review and just honest gameplay and what he learned playing during that time, which I think a lot of you guys will enjoy, especially if you're gonna go and obviously try the game out. So with all of that, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for turning up. StillAliveGG. And with all of that, that is the Scout Report concluded. So I'll catch you guys in the next video.